Do you want to have more connected relationship with your spouse? Of course you do. Of course you do, right? We all want that. So it was about a week ago, I posted a video on Instagram. It was a reel, and it was one of those nights where I just needed some good comfort food. And I looked at my husband and I was like, man, I just need a warm, hot chocolate chip cookie. And he looked at me and he was like, for you, my love, I'd do that. And so I went upstairs and I took care of getting the kids through showers. And by the time I came down, sure enough, my husband is in the kitchen and he is making me fresh chocolate chip cookies. And so I posted that, and as you can imagine, naturally that got an awful lot of attention just for, I think, I'm gonna move over here because the lighting's probably better. It got an awful lot of attention because I think that those are the type of relationships that we all want, right? Like the ones where we feel totally supported, the ones where we, especially on the days when we need it most, where we've got someone who is like, hey, like, however I can help you, the answer is yes. So what I want to do is I want to share 3 things that I do in my life, in my relationship with my husband, Shane, that really we think help just have us connect more. And I think that you can do this either in intimate relationships, but I also know this to be true across any relationship that you want to have more connection. So the first one is to just recognize that the currency in a relationship is time. And I know, like, I've got some friends and we're all so busy, right? Like, we're running around, and often our spouses are the people at the end of the day that get like the worst version of us, or the version of us that's running on empty, or whatever it may be. So if you're in a season where you're like, yeah, I don't have any extra time, I don't necessarily think it's just about extra time, but I do think it's about intentional time. For us, if our weeks are getting crazy and we have to schedule, or if we have to, hey, you want to go out to the hot tub for even 20 minutes, where it's uninterrupted, where sometimes we are talking about our to-do list, but more than anything, it's just that opportunity to connect, to be like, hey, where are you at? Where are you at? That's a question we use often in our day-to-day and in our language. But the most important thing is just recognizing that we cannot have these thriving relationships if we're never investing time in them. Think about some of my best friends, and they are nowhere near. I do not get to spend every day with them. I do not get to spend every week with them. And so the time that we invest is often like a quick meme or a quick text. Am I as close to those individuals as I would like to be? No. And that's just because the currency of time is not being invested, or it's only being invested to a certain capacity. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just to realize how important it is to give. And I think about a time when my husband and I, we were going through a really tough time, and how like there was even some resentment. So if you're in that position in your relationship right now where you're like, yeah, the last thing I want to do is give to that jerk, that's when I would just lean in and press in and say that we often are getting what we are giving. Ouch, I know. Dang, the truth hurts sometimes, right? Whew, didn't think I was gonna go there, but it is true. So if there's a chance where you can give, I often think about how can I anticipate his needs? And I know that he's thinking the same thing for me. Like, how can I anticipate that she's going to need a cup of coffee, or she would like a cup of coffee before she gets out of bed? Or, hey, I'm going to, anticipate he's the one who's going to have to take the kids to school, so maybe I can get the shoes out. Whatever it is, it's like, what can I do, even the smallest gestures, to anticipate their needs before they have to ask? And that has been a game changer in our relationship too. We're doing that all day long, constantly. And it really does show us just how, like, you feel cared for. And when you feel cared for, it makes you want to even give more. So it's this beautiful cycle. The same way that you can spiral down if things aren't going well, but you have to make the choice to spiral back up again. And every time you give a little and it's received well, it makes you want to give a little bit more, and then you start getting, and that's when you start feeling filled too. The third thing, it comes down to standards. It really does. And, the example coming to mind right now is actually last night, my son and I, we were playing Pictionary against my daughter and my husband. And I was on the team with my son. And even though we were winning, I did not guess his drawing. It was like the middle of the road and we circling the same line over and over again. You're like, draw something different, right? Everyone's been there. And when we didn't get it, he was so angry. He was like, I can't believe you didn't get it. Come on, that was so easy. Mom, what were you thinking? And it was to a point where it was like, you know what? Guys, we are going to forfeit, which means we lose because we don't have the right attitudes and we're not talking kind to each other, and I'm not going to be talked to that way. And so it's even like the relationship that I'm handling and developing with my own son comes down to like, what are the standards of what I will tolerate? Because that's what I'm willing to give, but then that's also what I'm actually willing to get back. And I think even too in times where, right, like my husband and I, we're always growing. So maybe the way that I handle a situation today isn't the same way that I want to handle it a month from now. And if there's that disagreement or that like, hey, wait a second, what's happening here? There are a couple times where we have to call timeouts where it's like, whoa, we're not going to talk to each other that way. We're not going to treat each other that way. We're not going to think about each other in that way. I know that wasn't your intention. Let's just call timeout and go from here. So the standards that we create, the standards are the things that we tolerate in our relationships. And that could even come down to like, hey, with friendships, I think about like, hey, if you're not, like I think about some of the ones where I was always reaching out. Like, have you been that friend where you were always the one who's texting? And it just gets to a point where you're like, hey, I can't carry this one-way street anymore. And that's a standard that you put down for yourself, and either it is received and something changes in the relationship, or it is better for you anyway. So the standards that we have for ourselves and what we're willing to tolerate about how other people treat us, that absolutely determines the type of relationships that we have too. So if you think about the person who you want to connect with the most, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's a family member. Like think about that one relationship that you want to feel so connected and cherished and like treasure, right? And if you can recognize that the currency in relationships is time, giving that quality time, undistracted time, like that's how you can actually connect. If you can see that you are willing to give over and over again until you start to get, or if you can anticipate those needs, and then really looking at the standards and what you tolerate in the relationship. So really think about those three things. And the more that you can apply those over the next day or over the next week, watch how much it changes the relationship. Because ultimately, this change in your life, it matters for you, right? Like think about what would happen if you had such connected, thriving relationships. That sounds a lot easier and a lot more fun, a good way, a loving way to walk through life, right? So this change matters for you. Your change matters. And until next time, I know you got this. Bye.